because we are now shifting from the MCP server to the MCP client. So you guys already saw that it's possible with this application to create MCP servers in OutSystems, so to expose tools, right? But there is also the need, depending on the use cases, for us to be an MCP client to fetch information from other systems, right? And so OutSystems allows now to do this by using, the connections in the portal. So if you go to the connections, you may see that now we can connect to an external MCP server. So this means that we are an MCP client. So yes, let's try to do this. If I want to communicate with an MCP server, I need to put a name. And I know this might seem a bit of an inception, but let's simulate that we are connecting with our own MCP server that I created, right? So I have the OPMCP. I don't need to put for now a description, but let's consider that we have here the URL. Let me just fetch the URL. Okay. Okay, so it is an API key. Let me fetch the API key. Okay, authorization header. Okay, let's say that this is also the same for production. And then test. And right now, what OutSystems is doing, do you guys remember the initialize? So OutSystems is now trying to call the initialized method, and it sees if the response is in fact the expected from the protocol. And then I think it calls probably the list of tools just to check if it works. And then it says that, okay, perfect. I was able to get a response. So it is working, and we can save. And the moment that we save, no, I don't want. The moment that we save, we have a button here if it is of type MCP server. And what does this button do? This basically allows us to say from the MCP server we are connecting, what are the tools that we want to bring to our side? Because imagine that we are connecting to an MCP server that has 20 tools or 50 tools, but we just want to use 2 or 3, right? This is where we select. So we go in the MCP that I just created. I go here to the import, and you see that it has the tool. So if we go to the MCP, you see that the OPMCP has indeed just one tool, and it does not have anything else. So one tool. So he detects here, and we can indeed bring this tool to our site. Just a small tweak. I believe that OutSystems probably needs to improve this. Right now, what OutSystems says is, no, you cannot bring this function because the naming convention of this is not supported by us. And you guys might notice, because for us, the way we create functions on OutSystems side is using this type of naming convention, right? We don't use hyphens. So in this case, it doesn't work. So we need to rename. We need to say, okay, let me put here this name, and then, okay, now it's ready to be used. Why do I think that OutSystems needs to improve this? Because what OutSystems is saying is, I know that there is a huge protocol in the world working with everyone that specifies that the tools use this naming convention, but because we are OutSystems and we work different, I want you to change all the other rules that the rest of the world uses just to adapt to me. And no, that is more what Microsoft Dynamics does. This is not how OutSystems works. So OutSystems is open and integrated with the world. So I believe that most likely they will find a way in the next updates to improve this, for example, doing an automatic conversion. So it's possible to do an automatic conversion from naming conventions. So we can do that to not have us manually naming all the tools that we want to have. But yeah, so we have this tool here. We can say import. And from this moment on, this tool is available to be called by an agent. How can we do that? If we go, for example, to this agent application, so this is an agent, you can see that it doesn't have UI. So we have here the server, the agent core here. So this means that right now, if I go here to the dependencies, and I put call maintenance agent, you will see that the server action is here. So I can open this, add, and then I can go to this cute guy and add indeed the action that was created. Here it is. Why will I not do this? Because I think that this will be a bit dangerous, considering that I'm basically saying to the agent that he can call himself if he wants, because you guys just might notice that this call maintenance action is indeed the same action that we are exposing to outside. So basically, if I would do this and I would trigger this agent, he would start having an internal loop of conversation with himself. And we don't want to do that. So let's not consider this. And yeah, let me remove. And that's it. Everything is as it was. But just for you to see that this is the way how we can create a connection with an MCP server from outside. And basically this closes the loop of an MCP server and an MCP client. Okay, so this was mostly the theory dash practical part of it. So let me now ask for questions. I noticed that I already had here one in the chat. So what is sensor in an AI agent? And okay, I will start replying to this one, and you guys feel free to put more questions in the chat and I will pick those questions. So indeed, what is a sensor in an AI agent? Let's go here and do a live thing. Let's see if this works. ChatGPT is an AI agent right now. You can see that this is more like agent modes. How did he allowed? It does not work right now as it worked before. Yeah, we have here the rep search. Okay, now he has a sort of modes, so to say. So these modes do not convert directly to sensors, so to say. But in the, like some months ago, in the beginning of this year, if you would go here, you would have capabilities. So you would have like you would be able to activate web search or disable. You would be able to give functions or remove them. So, and right now it's all a bit mixed. But an agent, he receives text. There is no doubt about it. An AI model receives text in the same way that we receive sound and vision, right? So we cannot change the way an agent receives information, its tokens. But we can change the source of that information. So what sources can we have or can we give to an agent? For example, if we need an agent to just talk with someone, to be a conversational agent, right? We don't want him to be able to go to the web. We don't want him to call databases, call systems. We just want him to be a nice conversational model. In this case, the only sensor that he will have is the audio from a user or the text, because yes, I said that agents receive text, but they can also receive audios depending on the models. So if we have a model that is audio to text, it means that the model can receive audio. If the model is audio text to text, it means that it can receive both. It can receive audio and text. And we will see that after in one of the demos. But basically, this means that depending on the use case that you want to give to an agent, you will have different types of sensors, right? In the same way that, for example, bats, they can hear ultrasounds, yeah, and we humans cannot, because nature made that way due to the needs that we had in the world, right? So the agents will also depend on the use cases that you need. If you need an agent to search on the web and then, based on the results, produce a summary, then you need to give him capability or the sensor to search on the web, to go to a website, retrieve the text from that website, and then use it. So that can be considered also another sensor. Or if you want him to call databases, to call APIs, you need to give that tool. So a tool can be both a sensor and an actuator, depending on what it does. Of course, that the name sensor is not the most accurate name for an agent, but because I was mapping to the concept of a multi-agent system, we call it mostly inputs and outputs. You can consider the same thing. Sensors are inputs, and responses, or no, not response, actuators are outputs or responses. But it depends always on the use cases. Okay, next one, how to reduce token count if we have a PDF. Oh, this is a really specific one. Let me check. I want to summarize PDF data using GPT. Same situation, so I can respond to the both of them. How can we get a session ID, as it's mandatory and should valid? Okay. Let's start with first the session ID, because it's related with more related with the MCP part of it, and then I will go to the other two. So a session ID is basically a way for us to maintain the line of a conversation, right? If you guys go to a friend and you say, hey, what are you going to do tomorrow? And then he says, oh, tomorrow I'm going to the cinema. Do you want to come? You will not say, want to come where? What do you mean? You will know that this is the flow of the conversation that you guys are having, right? So you know that he is asking if you want to come to the thing that he's going to go tomorrow that you asked, right? So there is a flow in this conversation. But if you guys then go, oh, yes, so we are planned, now we need to talk about work. Let's talk about this. In your brain, you can do a bit of a switch to the other topic, right? Because we understand that we were talking about going to the cinema. Now we are talking about work. Two different lines, right? You can see the sessions as the same thing. If you want to go to the agent and say, we can try this. If I go here and say, hi, what is the capital of Portugal? Probably he will say it's Lisbon, right? And then if I say, perfect, okay, what is the weather there? He will know that I'm referring to Lisbon, right? He did not said something like, oh, the weather where? Where are you talking about? And the reason why is because there is a session ID behind here. So when I'm creating this initial message, I created a session ID that I pass to him, and then he replies, and then I ask again with the same session ID. And so he knows that this conversation has a flow. How does this work with Agent Workbench? In Agent Workbench, we have the memory, and the memory it's not a real memory. I don't like to use this name memory. This is more a sort of a flow data, because this is where we store the sequence of conversations that we are having. And we can see that if we go to the agent task, we have here the store memory. And when we are building the messages, we are loading the memory based on the session ID. So this means that when we talk to an agent, if we don't give a session ID, it means that it's a new conversation. He will not fetch any memory. But if we pass the session ID that we already gave before, he will try to look in his memories if there are already past conversations or messages with this session ID. So you should look into this memory as a history of conversations. And this is how we manage session IDs. Regarding the PDFs, this is a really complex one. I will give just a short answer here, but you guys can then ping me on, you guys know it's just, it's how, sorry. You can ping me on LinkedIn or something like that, and we can talk a bit more about this. But the easiest way for me to answer you the question, this is, how would you do if someone would give you a PDF at 35 pages and you would have to summarize this PDF so that you could talk about it? And the answers we have is, of course, one thing you can do is you can go to the index of that PDF. You can memorize the index, right? Because you are just memorizing then some items, right? So you memorize that index, it's in your head, and you print the PDF and you stay with the PDF in your side. And what you do is when someone asks you, oh, can you tell me about this? You really quickly go to the index and you say, oh, this is in page 7. Then you go to page 7, you read and say, oh, it's this, right? This is what RAG does, RAG. A RAG is a very complex, efficient index system that you can ask something to an agent, and depending on that index, he will know in a document where to look really quick. But this means that the agent always needs to have the document available to be queried, and RAG also does that. If you don't want to use RAG, and if you really want to summarize knowledge, the only way that you can do this is to create an agent that he summarizes that text. And how does he do? If he cannot handle all the 35 pages, you break. You create, for example, an OutSystems process where you break the content of the PDF into chunks of 5,000 characters. Each one of the chunks, you say to the agent, hey, here is a bit of the information, summarize this part. Here is the second bit of the information, summarize that part. And you do that in a cycle until you reach the end of the document. So the easiest way for you to know how to engage in a use case so complex as a PDF of 35 pages is for you to imagine how would you do if someone would ask you to summarize 35 pages. Probably you would do the same thing. You would go to the first page, you would write the summary then. You would go to the second page, and then you would write the summary about it. So this is the same way that agentic architecture needs to work. It's imagine how humans would do. It's the simplest way. All right, any other question, guys? But also feel free to ping me on LinkedIn if you want to know that more in detail. But basically, I have done a use case for that. So I built an agent that creates questions and answers about a topic, and I give to him all the documentation about systems that exists on the GitHub repository, all the markdown documents. And then what that agent does is on each markdown document, he reads piece by piece, and then generates questions and answers. So it's the same way, so it works. You can trust that that system works. All right, so if we don't have any more questions, let's now play a bit of how we can use an MCP server. And the reason why I wanted to show some demos, it's first to show you guys that this works, but to also show the different possibilities that we can have with this. And let me start first by challenging just a quick topic around here. Who has here already heard about another protocol called agent to agent, A2A? Put here in the chat who already heard about A2A. Okay, not so many. That's not a problem. So A2A, it's called agent to agent. OutSystems is also currently working on that. You can see in their roadmap that they have the intention of talking about this. So what is the A2A? Because if you go to LinkedIn or if you go to Google or to YouTube, there are a lot of videos saying, why do we need A2A if we have MCP? Is an MCP and A2A the same thing? What is the difference? And it's very important here to analyze the difference. And this is what I'm showing you here. It's something that I've been working currently. So this, at least I didn't saw anywhere in the internet something about this, but this is something that I've been working that I call the agent triangle. That it's basically to show how the different agents that we talked, how they communicate. And you might see here that the MCP is a very specific use case when we have a communication between agents and systems. So an MCP should be used between these two types. Because when we have, for example, systems with systems, that already exists before AI, it's not a big deal. We use APIs, we use, can be REST, it can be SOAP, or it can even be other ways. We can have FTP servers, but basically we use this type of way. And then with the humans, if we have a human that wants to communicate with the system, normally it uses apps in a form of actions. And why does he do that? Because a human is in the unstructured communication side of an agent, and the system is in the structured communication. So that's why if we, in OutSystems, if we want to create a new employee, right, what do? We put a form. We don't put a big text box where we say to the system, hey, create an employee called Tiago that works for IT. Doesn't work like that, right? We create forms. Why? Because forms are a way to structure communication, right? So this means that the way humans talk with systems is through apps in a form of actions to convert to structure things. But then we now have this cool guy, the AI agents, right? And the AI agents, they are in the structured communication area of the agents, right? So this means that how do we normally talk with agents? We also use apps because they are in systems, they are in servers somewhere in the world. But normally we talk with them or we write text. So this means that is an unstructured communication, right? We don't need forms to talk with ChatGPT. I can go to ChatGPT and say, hey, Chat, do this, 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 and that, right? So this is how we talk with agents. And then we have the way agents talk with systems. And the way agents talk with systems is using MCP, because MCP is a way to, in an automatic way, convert unstructured communication to structured communication. So here is where MCP stands. But then we have also the possibility of having agents talking with agents, right? And of course, you can do the shortcut like I did of considering that an agent is in a certain system. So we use an MCP that then the system calls the agent with that tool. Yes, but it's not the most effective way because we are putting a system in the middle, right? So the most effective way was if the agents would have a possibility to say, "Hi, I'm Agent X." The other says, "Hello, I'm Agent Y." The agent X says, "Oh, I'm an agent specialized in weather forecast. You can ask me anything related with weather and I will tell you." And the other agent will say, "Okay, thank you. I'm the agent Y. I'm specialized in MCP documentation. You can ask me anything about MCP and I will know." And that's it. And they do the handshake. And from that moment on, they talk in an unstructured way because the agent Y will say, "Hey, do you know what will be the weather in Lisbon for tomorrow?" And he says, "Yes, I know. I'm specialized in that. So let me check," and does and reply, right? So this is more close to having two people talking, right? So the A2A protocol, if you guys go to the A2A website where it has the specification, you will see that the specification might seem similar to the MCP because it also uses the JSON RTC way of putting the JSON information. But you will see that there are really different information, or the way to put information inside the different API calls, it's really different. Because in the MCP, we call tools, we call resources, and we receive JSONs with the different inputs and the values. But with the A2A, we basically send a chat. It's like if two WhatsApps were talking with each other. We initialize saying our capabilities and authorizations that we have, but that moment forward, it's like sending messages to each other. So it's really different of MCP. But the most important thing from here that I would like to you guys to retain is that we are talking of very two different scopes of protocols. They might seem the same thing if you look into the structure of them, but their purpose, it's really different. So do not confuse A2A with MCP. And I'm really excited, or I'm really eager to see when OutSystems will release the A2A so that we can have the agents in the agent workbench talking directly with other agents without us having to do APIs or use an MCP in the middle. Okay, so perfect. I will talk also about this in the next week in my other session, because this is also crucial for us to know how to build use cases, hybrid use cases between humans, systems, and AIs. But for now, let's stay here. All right. So first demo. Oh, so I see someone here asking what is the workbench. So the workbench is the new feature released by OutSystems in ODC. They released this in one conference. And the agent workbench is basically a set of tools that allow us to accelerate implementations with AI. So from that, you will not find like anywhere in OutSystems saying this is the agent workbench, because the agent workbench is a set of tools that they release. So right now you can create an agentic app. This belongs to this suite of the agent workbench. You can create agent apps. Inside the agent apps, you have this new ball here where you can call an agent. So is this set of functionalities that now exists is called the agent workbench. And yeah, right now everyone, at least here in the Netherlands and in Portugal, everyone now is talking about this, because also OutSystems said that if we release an agent in production until January. Now it was extended till January. That we don't pay the cost of the agent workbench in the current contract time. So it might be useful to consider that.
Tiago, as I
Yeah.
understand, the agent workbench, rather its subscription. So the one is creation of the agentic app, and the second is the your workflows, which also become a part of the
Mhm.
agentic workbench. Correct? Uh,
Yeah. So the before there was it already existed. The the concept of the workflows already existed
correct.
before
Correct.
the agent workbench, but now you have the capability of inside the different workflows you can
Hmm.
more easily call the agents. So
Correct.
before you would have to create a service section, and inside the service section you would have to do what it needs to be done. Now automatically appears there, because when you create an agentic app you are already creating a service section to
Service.
expose there.
Correct. Correct.
So yeah.
But I
You,
believe I want to get your thoughts on what. So I read a very interesting article, and I'll see if I can put that link by one of the. I think it was also shared by Miguel on LinkedIn. I
mhm.
believe the standard tier, or rather, the if you submit a agentic AI app in production by end of Jan, the free tier would
Hmm.
include, I believe, 5,000 executions per month.
Yeah, there is already a free tier. So if the
Correct.
client just uses
Correct.
that limit, it's in the free tier. If he needs to use more than that, then it starts, I
Correct.
believe, in 20K or something like that.
Correct.
So
Correct.
this
Correct.
means so this means that if you put now an agent in production,
Mhm.
those 20K will be free on your current contract. So if
Correct.
you have a contract of 3 years, in those 3 years, you will be able to go to the next tier without paying.
So
So you need to.
one takeaway that I had from that was that it looks at the complete execution of the workflow as one execution. So if you had multiple workflows or multiple agents, and you are orchestrating them with another workflow, then that will
Hmm.
really increase the number of execution counts that are done, versus having a single workflow which which has all of the agents in it, where you're calling the agents either sequentially or decision based, because the entire execution of the workflow is considered to be a single execution. So it
Hmm.
favors fully integrated workflows rather than independent agent specific workflows.
That's a very interesting question, because one of the things that I was considering as the execution was this ball. So the when you call this ball, it counts as one execution. So if you have 10 workflows, that all those 10 workflows they call one time this agent, so there will be one time times 10,
No,
so
I
10 calls.
no,
It's not,
no, I
it's
don't think so.
the
So,
executions
because
are the
let me see if
workflows.
I can. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me see if I can find that specific article, because
That
I
yeah, that would be important, because the for example, right now, almost 100% of the use cases that I developed, I don't use workflows. I use the
correct,
service
correct,
action calling. So
correct,
and probably OutSystems would not give me for free this, because or else everyone would start to not using the workflows. You'll start using this. So
So there
that's an
is this
interesting question.
post by Marco, and I'll try and put the link. It's a Medium link. I'll
Hmm.
put the link in the chat. Just give me a second here. All right. So let me go ahead and put the link in the chat. So if you look at the Medium article, what it states is essentially, yeah. Let me go ahead and share my screen if I can.
Hmm.
Oh, I
No.
think you need to stop sharing for me to share.
Oh, done.
Okay, there you go. All right. So let me open up Yes. So if you look at this article, it essentially states the two tiers. So you've got
Mm-hmm.
1,000 executions per month, which is always free, and then up to 5,000 a month, which is traditionally 20,000 euros.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it'll be zero. Now, here is what I found the interesting part. So it says an execution represents one complete agent run, reasoning, and the action trigger cycle, regardless of how many tools, APIs it counts. It is just one execution aligning with business outcome. So if you've got a workflow where processes, document, summarize, handle, refund, validate, this entire thing is one decision. But if you have a chatbot which is triggering a new agent and multi-agent loops calling each other, these are multiple executions. So I'm not sure
Yeah.
because based on the image, it seems like if
We are saying the same. We are saying the same.
same thing.
So
Oh,
because
okay,
yes,
okay,
because if you notice, each time you are calling in that workflow an agent, and you have the
uh-huh.
icon, right? Every time you
Right,
are
right.
calling that agent, you are calling the what I was showing the service
Okay,
section. So it's the same
okay.
thing. The reason why he says that it counts three times, it's because you have three steps, and on each step you are calling the agent. So that's why it counts as three, counts as multiple
No,
executions.
no, but here you say it counts as one execution. If you've got if you've got three
Hmm.
actions, but if you use them as separate agents, then it
Ah,
will
okay.
so it says this operational model favors high value outcome driven automation where each run corresponds to a full business task or transaction. So I'm not
Okay.
exactly sure. Are they talking about a
I will read
workflow
that. I will
execution?
read.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I will read that more in attention because I haven't noticed that before. And also, if I have questions, I will talk with Marco because I
Sure.
think he's also here in the Netherlands. So I will
Yeah,
see him this Tuesday. I will talk with him about this because
correct.
it's a very interesting question because it can change a lot the way we do
Right.
the calls. But I think probably I can say one thing for sure. If you don't use workflows, because it's possible for you to also call agents without using workflows, because normally
Correct.
workflow it's more like the old BPTs, right? And not
Correct.
everything we
Correct.
do is with the
Correct.
BPTs. We can
Correct.
have
Correct.
a one shot, what it's called the typical one shot scenarios, where
Correct.
we just need an
Yes.
agent
Yes.
to do this and that's it. I believe that those scenarios also make sense to count as an execution, even if they are not in workflows, because we are calling an agent also. But I will check this with him.
Yeah.
Thanks for the this article. It's really
Sure.
cool.
Sure. Because then that brings to mind another question. So, you already are getting, you're paying for the AOs in a sense, your API objects, right? And
Hmm.
if you're calling the service tooling or if you're calling an agent service action, which is what it
Hmm.
effectively is, and you get billed for every execution, then I think that is going to make it a little cost prohibitive if it is
Yeah.
at the action call level. Because not only do you have to pay for the LLMs, which is again bring your own LLM license model,
Hmm.
on top of that, so effectively you're paying for orchestration, which is a part of business logic, which was generally not built so far. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping, I'm hoping that the clarification is that if you use them in workflows and build agentic AI workflows, every workflow execution counts as an execution and not just an agentic AI call.
Yeah.
Because that's how N8 licenses it. That's how most of these agentic AI workflows they license it. It's based on the workflow
Hmm.
that is executed, and there again, it's based on successful workflow executions. Failures are not counted for billing. So I think that will be interesting to see how that sort of translates into
Yeah.
um, the use cases, because otherwise it might just be more cost prudent to use an N8 orchestration versus an OutSystems agentic AI orchestration, which you can still integrate with OutSystems. uh, uh, if it's going to be every service action call based, because that
Yeah.
will. If I look at a typical one of my customers for a particular use case, I'm looking at more than probably 80,000 calls in a month.
Yeah, and I think I can help here with something, Subo, about this because
Mhm.
as I was saying to Sashi, I think the agent workbench does not bring any new capability to OutSystems.
Correct,
It
correct.
simply puts things in a more fast way. So this
It's
means
scaffolding.
yeah. So this means that, for example, let me again share the screen here just to show the what
Correct.
I meant. Second. So if we have, if we don't want to spend AOs and costly actions to our clients, we can simply do as I've already been doing since last year. So I start working with
Correct. Correct.
agents in
Yeah.
the beginning of 2024, and the way I did that at the time was with these guys here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I created APIs for OpenAI
Correct.
or for
Correct.
Azure OpenAI. So I created my own APIs, and then I called the agents with APIs, right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
being being here totally honest, I think that the way OutSystems is putting the costs here, they are being a bit greedy because, of course, they said that they consider the metrics and the price with the same competitors, with NA10, with the agent builder in OpenAI. So they did all of that. But OutSystems is already charging for
Correct.
AOs and for a license. So they are
Correct.
already charging more things when the users will start using agents, APIs, and things like that. So they are sort of double charging things, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
believe that this might be dangerous in the way
Correct.
that can lead to the same thing that when in O11, when they start putting a lot of AOs in a lot of rules, and we start having clients creating their own user table, user
Correct. Correct.
session,
Yeah.
and start making these things to save AOs, right? I think that what could happen here is that people that want to save money on the license and in those things, they will start implementing their own connectors, and they can
Correct.
even use the agent workbench initially to try to accelerate and see if it works. Perfect,
I
and then
think.
they remove.
I think. I think the key point is what you said, right? There is no additional capability or value the scaffolding brings. There is one value that I do see where your AI connections having the ability to ladder them, having the ability to have failover that you can manage within the AI connections on OutSystems. That is definitely a valuable feature. Something that you can also build, but I think that's the problem, that the additional costing is not justifying the additional value that is being added. I believe that's where
Mhm.
people will start looking for workarounds. I
Yeah.
don't believe any customer would not want to pay for something that he's getting value for. It is just when they
Mhm.
feel that they're paying a lot more for what is perceived to be lesser value, then you start looking at circumventing these
Yeah.
licensing options.
Yes, exactly. And
Fair
for
enough.
example, Sashi was here stating correctly
Yeah,
that, but if we use the OpenAI APIs, we are
correct.
also increasing the AOs. But there is two huge differences, Sashi. First, you
It's
only
not per
use
execution.
one API in one
Yeah,
library, and then all the apps that call the OpenAI connector, they are only using the same API. So it's only one AO. And right
correct,
now, if you create an agent, it's one AO per agent,
correct.
agent app. So it increases the number of AOs. And the second thing is the licensing of the agent workbench. So basically, besides the AOs, you are paying 20K, for example, if you use more than 5,000 executions, right? If
Yep.
you start using APIs, you don't have that licensing issue. So there are
Correct.
those. verticals. But I really hope that OutSystems works out this better, because I
Yeah,
don't want to
yeah.
go back to OpenAI connector. There is also a really good advantage of the agentic, and for me, it's the only function that really saved me probably 3 days per
Right,
scenario. That is the fact that we can put the tools here directly. Because before, when I wanted to do this in API, I
hmm,
have to serialize the
correct.
inputs of this manually and put it in the API, because just like in the MCP, the structure depends on the inputs of these actions.
Right,
And
right,
OutSystems under the hood does this. With this agent, what OutSystems is doing is that they pick the server action, they pick the description that exists here. They pick the inputs that the action does, and they convert this into the JSON schema that we saw before.
yeah,
They do
yeah,
that automatically and they send. So that
correct.
part saved a lot of time, because before I had to do this manually by each
Yeah,
step. It's
Tiago,
the
did you ever get the structured output working? I haven't been able to get the structured output working yet.
well, the two of them cannot work at the same time. I don't know why. I need to
Oh,
talk with someone without systems. So if
okay,
you call actions here, and then if you
right,
also put then a structure output, he gives somewhere an error. Yeah, error, and he says
right,
here, you cannot use yeah, action calling and structured output cannot yet be used together. This is really strange, because it's possible if you use the API, it's possible to
correct,
use
correct.
both of them. And I think we can explore, for example, next week, we can explore a bit more when to use the two of them. When should we use a structured output? When should we use an action calling? And when
Right,
should we use grounding data? Because I think there is a lot of confusion in between these three. All of them
correct.
are used to switch data and fetch data, but the
Yeah,
way we should use them, it's really different. And I think we can talk next week about
absolutely.
this.
I think that'll be very useful. But
Okay.
even standalone, have you been able to get successfully structured outputs? Because I tried it with a couple of AI models. I haven't
Hmm.
tried it with Claude yet. I tried it with Gemini Lite, Flash 2 Lite, and I tried it with
Yeah.
some of my on-prem models. I wasn't able to get the structured output. I just never got the output in the way I wanted.
Okay, I never tried on my own here, because
Okay,
normally the pattern I use, it's always I use the
right,
when I want to have outputs, or when I want to have structured things, I teach the agent to call the functions and then
correct,
use the reply as a result, saying like, yes, I
right.
was able to call it, and these are the results. But your use case is also valid for some situations. I never passed on that so far, but I saw in one they created an agent and they put it the structured output. So
So
I don't know if
the if you look at the agent versus AI, the AI agent versus zombie challenge, so there
Mhm.
also they appended the JSON structure. They wanted the output in the JSON structure, but they
Yeah,
appended that structure in the system context and
yeah,
not as a structured output. And
yeah,
the moment
exactly.
I tried to do it in the structured output, it was failing.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if somebody got you working yet.
the way OutSystems is working with that, and even the way they put it in the badge, how's it called? Like the get ready,
Correct. Yes, yes. Agentic AI
get
ready
ready.
badge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where you had to do the three agents for the loaning, right?
Correct.
They also d-
Did
say
not
to
use a
put in the
structured upload.
system.
Yeah.
Why do
Yeah.
they say this? Because this is like the old way before the
Okay.
output structures existed in OpenAI. This
Right.
was the way
Right.
for you to get JSONs, and I had
Right.
and I'm still from the time where I had to do this. What is the problem of this? Is that and or let me just reply fast, because I still wanted to show a demo before the end of the
Sure. Sure.
session.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
just very quickly, one of the things is you saying to the agent, hey, you should use this JSON. And then the agent can hallucinate or not, and he can reply with that or not. It works most of the times, but it may fail. So in my old days, I had to try to do the serialize. If I got an exception, I would call the agent saying, hey, you failed. You didn't give me the correct JSON. You should use this JSON. And then he would loop until it gave me the correct one. In reality, with the structured output, that logic is done on the model side. So on the model, when you are saying that you want a structured output, you are putting the responsibility in OpenAI or in Claude or in Mistral for them to do a parse validation. So what they do is the agent replies, they do a parse validation. If it fails, it goes back to the agent. So it's the same thing, but it's on their side. So it works better. For me, we should always use the structure output because it takes the responsibility from us to do the validation. But yeah, it's something probably that needs to be improved. I will test this afterwards to see if I can.
Thanks.
All right, so let's just finish this showing 2 quick examples of how we can use. First one, OpenAI. So one thing is ChatGPT. Another thing is for us to create an OpenAI account and have our own agents, right? So if I go to my project, this is my OpenAI account. In the dashboard, I can create specific chats. I can use the agent builder. I can have real-time audio. So in this situation, let's create a chat that can connect to my MCP in OutSystems, right? So I have here already created a chat of OP. This is my AI personal assistant. And if we go here in the tools, we have the possibility to add an MCP server. Of course, they already have known MCP servers that exists. But if you want to put your own one, you go here to the server. And so you need to put the same information that we put it in OutSystems. I think this is the one. Yes, so I have my connection to OPMCP. I call it OP. And let me again fetch the API key. All right, and connect. And now he is testing the connection. He's doing the same thing that OutSystems did in the portal, checking if he can initialize. And then he also does a tool get tool list. So if this works, that in dev, it's always this problem that OutSystems is always putting the servers in sleep. I really need to start doing demos in production. Start having the data immediately available. Or I refresh everything every 5 minutes. Okay. So let me do it again. Okay. So he is again calling the initialize from OutSystems side. Come on, man, I already wake you up. Okay, so he was able to connect to OP, MCP, and now he is fetching the tools. So we should appear one tool. OutSystems environment is really slow. Okay, connect. Let's do it again. Let's see. All right, perfect. Now it's faster. So he was able to do the initialize and to get the tools. And there is here this human in the loop that we might want, but I don't want. Let's say no, he can call the tool whenever he wants to call. So let's add here, and he now has the MCP connect. So in this case, we can ask things to the maintenance agent, and I didn't put you in the loop of what it does, but for example, we can ask what factories do we have in the company. So let's check here. Can you tell me what factories we have? So you can see that he checks the OPMCP for the the list of tools. He noticed that, oh, there might be a tool that can do this. He calls the maintenance agent, and again, it might take time because he was waking up the agent. Okay, he wants a location, but I don't want any location. I will say that probably if he asks me if I want any location, I will say that I just want a full list. So let's see. Okay, yeah, he understood that for now he should not send the list of filters. So we have here the 3 factories, and indeed, if we go to the maintenance app, it's not this one because I changed the name lately. So if we go to the app, this is a normal maintenance app. In the factories, we have here the 3 factories. So this is how you guys can integrate with the MCP, for example, using ChatGPT. But I also want to show a last example, and this is a cool one, because you guys remember that I said before that we might have an audio to text agent or an audio text to text agent, right? So this audio to text, it's called the real time, and you also have this in the in Forge if you want to use it. It's called in the Forge, I think I called it real-time agent or real-time OpenAI. Let me check. Okay, OpenAI real-time. So this is the integration on client side because it's a streaming. So it means that we are talking and sending and we are receiving at the same time audio, text from the agents. So you might see here that I have a field personal assistant, and this field personal assistant is connected also to, or it can be connected also to an MCP. And how do we do this? Because when we are creating an MCP client, an agent, a real-time agent outside OutSystems, so this is outside OutSystems, we also can specify in the tools that we want to use an MCP server. And how does this work? This will work because we can then, in this case, I connected this agent with a phone call. So I will call that phone, and if everything goes okay, I don't know if you guys can hear it.
You reach Oppie, Main T's personal AI assistant. How can I help you today?
Hi, OP. Can you tell me the list of factories that we have?
Sure, I can help with that. Let me pull up the list of factories for you. Please hold on a moment. I've got the list of factories for you. Here they are. Amsterdam, Bloemenstraat 54A, 2013 SL Amsterdam. Lisbon, Avenida de Liberdade number 34, 1600.
Okay, thanks.
You're all set. If you need...
Were you able to hear it?
Yeah, we could hear that. That's fantastic.
Okay, perfect. So this is basically a real-time agent, not in OutSystems. This part needs to be set in OpenAI with connection with Twilio. Twilio, it's a integrator for voice calls and messages. So connect that. But I'm saying in the code that I want you to connect to this MCP server, and this is on OutSystems. So it was possible for me to connect the business logic and the information with the agent for him to be able to tell me the information. And next week, we are going to explore a bit more of this because I'm going to talk about the 3 agentic layer canvas, that it's basically a framework that I created to how to make agents talk with each other in the different OutSystems applications. And we can use MCP in here. So that's why I wanted to show this example. All right. We are already on time. I don't know if there are more questions or not. If not, also feel free to ping me on LinkedIn, questions that you might have. Subu, do you want to to say anything else?
No, I think this will be a great session. Very, very informative. I think it'll take a lot of time for people to digest and sort of even validate this. But I think yeah, very interesting session. Very cool demos. And thank you again, Tiago, for your time. Thanks you, all of you, for participating and asking some very good questions. We will see Tiago again next week. I will be raising the event registrations today. So hopefully all of you will register and we will see a stronger participation next week as well. All right. Thank you again, Tiago. Thank you for your
Thank you.
session and wonderful demos. And we look forward to next week. All right.
Have a nice weekend, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.